Thanksgiving at the Laugh Factory. What is our subject for today? And present featuring me, Mark Crow, as your host for tonight. Let's get into our topic. Welcome to our slide of contents, because as you can tell, there is no table here. No tables whatsoever. Nope. Our first content this evening will be the what, followed by our where, as well as our observations made at the Laugh Factory on Thanksgiving Day, and then followed with the three most important things you can have in anthropology, all starting with C, our connections, our conclusions, and our citations. Let's get into it. First off, there's me. Say hello to little me.
Aww.
Let's get into the first topic. What?
Huh?
What is the Laugh Factory all about? Well, going according to the website's history, the official Laugh Factory website's history,
The Laugh Factory, opened its doors in 1979 and has since been recognized as a #1 comedy club by the country. This is being quoted by USA Today. That being said,
the Laugh Factory, what it is a comedy club
where comedians come in, they get paid to do their stand-up comedy, and because of the location-wise here in LA, they can get lucky and get famous, if they're lucky.
And then something here also to mention is that, yes, there is little me. That is my mom. That is my mom with other individuals, because she is the person who is introducing me to this culture, so to speak. And she's the one who has the most experience with it. And I guess I was involved in it too when I was little in terms of volunteering and whatnot. But I was so little, I didn't remember most of it, which is why we're revisiting it today here for this project.
And then something else to mention is that these pictures below are of Jamie,
A young Jamie Masada,
who is the owner of the Laugh Factory, and in these fictions, what is being shown here is a kids comedy camp that's actually really cool, because what they'll do is Jamie will bring in or invite in kids from lower income communities and things like that to be taught how to do stand-up comedy, and then they'll be awarded these little
certificates of like proof that they did it. And it's really cool, and it's giving kids the opportunity to do things.
which is another show of the Laugh Factory itself and Jamie Mansada himself, of just the things that they're willing to do for the communities. It's really awesome.
Continuing on. Hello? Thank you. Hand, invisible hand. There was just too much on the table. We had to clean it off. But let's bring back some more important information. My slides are being very glitchy today. There we go. So, continuing on with Jamie Masada. This is a young Jamie Masada, who I also got to meet in person and have firsthand conversations with. He was very nice. No one has anything bad to say about Jamie. Let's just get that out of the way. And then, more about him and how it relates to the Laugh Factory.
But what's really interesting is that he immigrated from Iran as a teenager. And, because of that, at the very start, he didn't have a lot of opportunities. And then I actually got to hear a story from one of my first-hand one-on-one interviews, is that Jamie even had to sleep in the garage of someone else's home to, have a place to sleep. And he himself has first-hand experience when it comes to, being someone with a low income, someone who doesn't have a lot of opportunities, someone who needed help.
And so now in his career, this is what he does. He gives back because he knows what it's like. And really, that's like just who Jamie is as a person. And I got to see that myself. Continuing on, with our Thanksgiving event specifically, like what it is and why I'm presenting it. This is when the Laugh Factory invites
volunteers and comedians to come to the club, and what the volunteers will do is help feed the unhoused and less fortunate. They'll help give out food to those who need it, They'll help serve food to those who can't like hold their own plates, or maybe they need an extra hand because they're disabled. And then once everyone is seated and having their food, the comedians will come on stage and give free comedy shows. Or every once in a while, you'll have someone like giving a cut of their pay to like those who need it, or like donations and whatnot. And then what's really interesting about this event is that
It goes on from about 1 to about 7 p.m. But there are three like rounds of giving food, as which includes seating those who come into the Laugh Factory, and that's at 1 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. And each round is the same thing over and over again, right? You're feeding the people who come in, you're seating them, and then you're giving them about like half hour comedy show with the comedians going on stage and delivering their performances. And then yeah, each round does take in about 300 people max, more or less. It kind of and now continuing with our second subject of the where. Where is the Laugh Factory? So welcome to Hollywood. The Laugh Factory is actually located in Southern California, and as you can see in our maps, it's not too far away from on to our third subject, which is our observations. Yes, that is little me observing as one does a comedian show. Don't remember it though. What's really cool about the observations in terms of like, my materials and whatnot, I actually had a camera cord recording everything as much as I could while at the Laugh Factory. And it was really, really cool. But wait a second. There's no audio. There's no audio. None of it recorded. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? No!
Oh my God.
Horrible. A horrible day. Well, even though I don't have any audio from the literally from the entire night that was there at the Laugh Factory, I'm sure I can just improv it. You know what I'm saying? Thank God for improv, right? Don't ever let me on a stage. That'll be bad for everybody. Thankfully though, I did have a plan B in my time at the Laugh Factory. So my mom, as I said before, was there. She, I guess you could say, was my production assistant, taking pictures of me as per my request and videos, as you may have already seen while I was speaking. Don't know. Post Mari is probably editing them in right now as we speak. Anyways, my observations. One of the first things I gotta say is, besides me having my camera phone mother as my materials, so to speak. Yeah, it was really hot within like the first 10 minutes because there's so many people and like uh the food trays being heated by whatever flames. It was very, very hot within like the first 10-15 minutes. Also, what you cannot see in these pictures alone, and maybe what you'll see with the videos being provided, is that there was like a lot of news crews there recording the people coming into the Laugh Factory, whatever capturing B footage, and like pretty much all up against the wall. And this was before people started coming in. Once people started coming in, it got even hotter. But you know what? I found a spot to stand towards the front of the building where the fresh air was coming, so I got to calm down, like cool down. And then when it came to like actually volunteering, I would help those who were disabled or who had a walker or something already in hand. So that way I would go ahead with them and reach up and grab whatever plates of food. And then I would lead the individual through the building and then find them a place to sit in this open seating area. So that way, once everybody had found a spot, then the comedy shows would start. But yeah, overall, it was very, very busy, very warm. We'll get on to a little bit more of the demographic that I saw firsthand in just a minute or two. And then, of course, my interviews. I got to interview a lot of the individuals there at the Laugh Factory before the first shift began in terms of feeding everybody. And what was really cool about that is
this person here in the top right corner, he was like a president of Black Factory in terms of, I believe, like the volunteering service. He's been there for about 40 years. It was really, really nice talking to him. He was very, very kind. I was very intimidating.
comes down to my pre-event interviews. So before the actual event itself, I got in contact through my mom, other comedians and uh, doctors, so to speak, to talk about, a little bit about why comedians do what they do, maybe how it relates back to the Laugh Factory itself, because the comedians I spoke to, have volunteered at the factory. They've started their careers there. And then the professionals, the doctors, Dr. James Harris I believe someone who introduced my mom, Dr. Ildiko Debori, to the Laugh Factory, and they are both psychologists. However, Dr. James Harris was also a comedian, which makes things very interesting for the topic as well. So here we have Raj Sharma from left to right, Raj Sharma, Al Velman, Al we just call him Al. And then we have Dr. James Harris. All of them were very nice to talk to. Hopefully, they're not watching this right now because I feel like I'm bombing my talking. I don't have a script written out. Guys, I'm just. And then continuing on with our aspirations. When speaking with Raj, for example, he had told me that he had noticed a lot of younger adults, young people, veterans, and older individuals in the unhoused and uh, in the lower income demographic, which is really interesting because when I was at the Laugh Factory, I graph done by the LA City Council. They weren't very specific on their website on what they found, but generally it was that, the unhoused population was decreasing significantly, quote unquote, cut in half. On the right side of the screen, which is provided by the LAist. Hopefully that's a good source. They did a report basically saying discussing similar reports that, homelessness has dropped by a certain percent, 3.4%, as well as 4% countywide, which I have to say, going down overall, like in both categories, just Hollywood and LA, you really don't notice it firsthand because at the end of the day, it's still like what 600 300 people 600 people that you're still, you know what I mean, like that's a lot of people. You don't feel the effect of it because I think the one-on-one experience really enhances, like, every individual person you see and you come in to help. And in terms of political organization, the Laugh Factory itself is kind of a political organization because through Jamie, the Laugh Factory, they take a stand on, what they believe in and who they stand for and who they represent. And to a certain, like, to the point where if you go through on their website, there's so many awards given to the Laugh Factory and Jamie Masada himself, because really what it's all about, from Jamie's eyes, as it seems, it's just helping everybody, anybody, no matter what, indiscriminately.
And then, of course, there's communication. Obviously, comedians deliver us comedy as well as, in bringing people together. But I think it's through their comedy that they get, there's like another level of unspoken communication that goes from the comedians to the audience. Like, yeah, you're just maybe telling a silly story about whatever freaking one bad thing that happened to you. But overall, what you're saying is like, what you're relating is how, the audience experience what you're relating is that, to the audience is that, like, these negative experiences that you may feel or that you may have noticed in your life, like, you can laugh a little, but you can bring joy to that. And I think that's what really enhances the community event coming together at Laugh Factory, especially on Thanksgiving, because I don't think enough people talk about this, but the holidays can be really, really awful for some people. Comedy at the Laugh Factory even more so enjoyable and heartfelt when it comes to bringing people together because everyone has their hardships, especially the community that we're serving to, and that never really goes away. regardless of, how much you try. But at least with like the comedians being there and volunteers being there helping the best that we're able to, that pain, that hardship, it gets relieved, even for a few moments. And I think that's the goal, of what the Laugh Factory does. And I can quote Jamie quoting this because I heard him say it when I was there at the Laugh Factory. Everyone who enters that building had to have been fed. Even when the newscasters were leaving the building, he had stopped the cameraman and said very seriously, just so you know, like you must have a plate of food before you leave. You need to have a plate of food.
Whew. And now going on to our final conclusions. As I just said, I think my references and resources. These are my other references that I have right now, which will be linked in the assignment box below or something like that. Yippee! Thank you.